Hello and welcome to Nirmal Bang, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiral Dadia. We have with us Ajay Khanwal, MD and CEO at Jana Small Finance Bank. Welcome to the show, Ajay. My first question coming to you over here is, everyone's already spoken about as to what's the impact of COVID-19 in terms of where the economy goes, in terms of where different sectors are concerned. The next big question is with regards to where the stimulus package that has been announced by the government of India. How do you think is it actually going to benefit our country? Because everyone has had distinct views about it, that it's more of a credit stimulus that has come in versus a fiscal stimulus, and the actual fiscal spend is going to be hardly 1.5% of the GDP. What's the sense that you pick up?
So I think the first thing the government did was, do the direct benefit transfer. And I think that was really giving needy money at the right time. And, given that Jana does a lot of its business with the bottom end of the pyramid, I must tell you that was very effective, very wanted. Secondly, I do think they have picked up segments of society they want to help. And they've come out, I think, first time ever, let's say the way they support NBFCs, MFIs, the way they want to support the vendors, the way they have come out with schemes to support the MSMEs. So there is a clear intent by government to help in the right spots. I do think that given where we are, honestly, keeping something in your back pocket, given that maybe there is a phase two, maybe we need a fiscal stimulus of a different nature of some kind in different industries. I would just wait a bit before I spend all the bullets that I have, honestly, because many of us, or rather, none of us have seen the crisis. Many of us have a visualization of what could happen, but frankly, truthfully, not everybody, nobody knows what will really happen. So, keeping some amount of your powder dry would be sensible. I think they have given both a moral boost, which we must admit has worked very well for India. They've helped the needy very clearly. I think Reserve Bank has come out with its own stimulus, which has been very helpful. Now for us to watch how it opens up, and probably then it's good to have another conversation saying, what else do we need and where?
Correct.
Right now, the risk is everybody is demanding something, and that fundamentally I don't think is possible.
Absolutely, yeah. Fundamentally and financially, it's not going to be possible where everything will get a pie of the of the kitty. But overall, if you talk about the economic package, Ajay, mainly the focus has been on farmers, MSMEs, the cottage industry, and if you talk about Jana Small Finance Bank as well, it's very closely linked to these segments. Now, in the first 60 days of lockdown, we've heard majority of the companies, majority of the industries have come out with negative news saying this is how we've been impacted. If you talk about the financial sector as well, a moratorium was something that had to be given with regards to EMI payments, installments, etc. Because there was support that did come into this segment of society, do you think that's something which has impacted your business less right now?
So first, I must tell you that none of us knew what to expect. So in a way, taking a proactive step like moratorium for 3 months and then expanding by another 3 months, I think was a very, very helpful measure.
Correct.
I think what it does is allows both the banks as well as the consumers to first take a pit stop and like, okay, let me see what's happening and how am I faring and how do I feel so that you can respond to it. And different people, depending on your balance sheet or your thinking, have responded to differently. So some people have money said, listen, let me wait. I want to hold some cash to see how this, you know, uh, pans out. Some people have said, no, I think I'll be okay. Let me just pay back. So I think different people have taken different approaches. The good thing that the moratorium does is allows us to do that rather than us panicking either side of either paying or not paying.
Hmm.
Secondly, I think, it's very obvious that the most vulnerable in society need the biggest help from the government, and they've rightly done so. So
Correct.
I think that's the other piece we should all recognize saying many of us can actually pay our EMIs even if lockdown continues for some time because we have enough savings. So people who have less savings, or people who have lost their jobs, or businesses have been shut, they need more help. And frankly, if the balance sheet is weak, you need more help from others. Where we sit, the microfinance customer or the bottom end of the pyramid here is the most crisis ready customer.
Hmm.
He has seen the Fani cyclone. He has seen the Chennai floods. He has seen the Kolhapur floods and has bounced back. It
Correct.
doesn't mean he's not impacted, but he is used to hardships and is used to building back his balance sheet and coming back. So the way I see it is, yes, it will take a bit of time. Maybe I think 6 months should, honestly, in my mind, if the lockdown opens, will be enough for all of us to really get back to our jobs, to get back to alternate employment, to opening our shops, rebuilding our working capital, and then building our goods, etc. I think it will be just fine. Uh, that is if the lockdown opens and things go back to normal. So I do think that the whole sector, which is a microfinance sector, it's pretty much used to crisis. This one will also pass off, I guess, like the last ones. People are resilient. People want to get back. I'll give you a very simple statistic for which belongs to us. So April month, we hardly any green zones. May we have a lot more green zones and people are venturing out. So in the green zones, 30% of our microfinance customers have actually paid the installments
Okay.
because in their mind, they have the money. They don't want the interest cost to go up.
Correct.
They want to get ready for the next one if their opportunity comes up. So people have started thinking positively, and I think 30% is a large enough sample of people coming positively.
Hmm,
I
hmm.
think this one will probably go to 60-70% in this same green zones because people will get more courageous, so to say, will feel more comfortable.
Hmm.
So I think it's a gradual path of recovery. Moratorium is brilliant because it gives everybody time, and we will all build on it. And I think it's helped everybody. Most important, the customers, because you don't want to have a health crisis, and on top of it, you're financially feeling challenged.
Correct. Right. So with all of this, if you could just help us understand, how are small finance banks actually different from other private banks then?
So, small finance banks' history is 10 of us, previously microfinance companies or NBFCs. We essentially were given licenses to serve the underserved, and criteria have been very clearly laid down to achieve that. So, for example, our priority sector lending has to be 75%. Mm, we all very easily achieve that because fundamentally our 80 to 90% of books are in the financial inclusion arena. 50% of our loans have to be less than 25 lakhs. So we're largely a retail business. You will hardly find large corporate exposures in small finance banks. And that is not why they were established, and that is not their best of, what should I say, isn't best of their abilities. So that's not where you will find a lot of corporate exposures. You'll also see that the capital adequacy ratio, as prescribed by RBI, is as high as 15%. And both function of being new banks, function of being in the financial inclusion sector. And finally, the expectation of small finance bank is to have very simple treasuries, which essentially does basically balance sheet management for your books. It doesn't do any complex products, any derivatives, FX trading, etc. So it's expected to have an approach which is consistent and focused on financial inclusion. And I must say, it's a very interesting business. Market is very huge. It's a market which needs a lot of work, but fundamentally, I must say that it's a very good business to be in.
Right. So how are you expecting the microfinance sector as a whole to fare actually in these times of crisis? Because no one is actually spared. From the biggest to the smallest, everyone has been impacted on the back of this pandemic. So if you have to talk from the sector's perspective, what is your anticipation?
So let's look at it this way. Let's look at numbers. If you take most of the 31st March 2020 declared results, most, if not all SFBs, will have net NPA levels of between 0.5 to 2%.
Correct.
So the same customer that we have to deal with in 2021 up to March 31st has given us a net NPA level, which I think by all standards is very good. Now the same customer, depending on who you are, will have a different response. But I do think that, let's say, 1.5% could treble. It could become 4.5. But my bias is that as it goes up in the short term, it'll again come back because we have seen in the past that customers will have difficulty in paying, but as they settle down, they'll pay you back. But given that industry is not running a burden of assets, which are either, when I say they don't run high NPAs as banks, they're not carrying a baggage which will be difficult to handle. What we have to manage is within this crisis, what goes wrong, how to fix it,
Correct.
or rather, how to help customers fix it. We're not entering with a high NPA, which makes it even more difficult as this crisis adds on new NPA.
Mm-hmm.
So my bias really is a second thing I must tell you. My average principal outstanding, and I guess most SFBs would be in a similar range for a customer in Metro is 26,000 rupees.
Okay.
Fundamentally, if your principal outstanding is because we are largely retail books, right? At 26,000 rupees outstanding in a Metro, I don't think there's a large loan amount for people to pay back. At best, it'll be probably 1.5 months' salary, and you have the next 1.5 2 years to pay back depending on loan tenure. So as long as the microfinance companies and small finance banks have a low leverage their customers, I think all of us getting our money back with some delays, which anyway has been allowed by moratorium, should not be very difficult. The question we haven't really answered, and because it's too early, is how much of our books have migrant populations? How many of them will come back? What period will they come back? Can we connect with them if we have some of them on our books? So I think that is the question which none of us know exactly the answer. So we'll figure that as time passes. But I suspect whichever you cut it, that can't be a big portion of our books.
Right. So if you have to take the period between the 1st of April to now, how have disbursements been? Because when we talk to a lot of larger organizations as well in terms of banks, the issue has been that even in spite of the liquidity being available, banks are still on the cautious end of the curve with regards to disbursing loans. Letters have been approved, but there is no disbursement actually happening. And the second concern to this is that if there are no disbursements happening by the banks on the working capital front, those same loans, those same companies probably could turn NPAs in the next 7 to 8 months. So on the microfinance side, how is the disbursement scenario looking like?
So I think first, Peter, on behalf of all banks, I think all banks would like to support their customers. None
Correct.
of us would want to see any of our customers to be NPA. And we'll do all within our power to achieve that. That's number one. Number two, remember, this is not a crisis we've all practiced in the past. So maybe there is a few ups and downs, but fundamentally we'll all get the right direction because we want to help, we want the economy to go up, we want our customers to be happy, and we don't want large NPAs ourselves. So I think we are all aligned in where we want to get. It's very true for microfinance customers. So in our case, our disbursements are, it's a high touch business, right? So I need to see my customer, we form a batch, we meet them and we collect money and we give money. I wouldn't ever want in April any of my staff to be under the risk of going out and getting infected. I wouldn't want that for my customers. So we had a very light April. We had a bit more engaging March, largely in the green spots, largely the rural belt. I think June will be even better. So we are disbursing, but very small amounts related to what we did in the past. Not of any risk averted, but for two things. One is none of our customers know what is the shape of their need either. As they open up with the lockdown, they'll figure out how much money they need. I think it's a bit early. Second is you really don't want to step up for your own employees' safety sake as well as customer safety sake for engagement. So I think everybody's being a bit careful, and I think that's the right approach. And it'll warm up slowly. So I think we should exit this crisis in an evolutionary manner. We shouldn't try and push our way out.
Mm.
And fundamentally, there is time given by the Reserve Bank for all of us to adjust to this challenge in a very gradual way. So I think I wouldn't overreact right now. I would take it more balanced way. And I think, like I gave you a number, right? Without any serious push, 7% has become 30% in 1 month, right? So I think we will probably be a 60-70 next month. That's fine. As long as we're all safe and healthy and alive, I'm sure
That's
we'll
what
do well.
matters. Yeah. So how do you think that the MSMEs should be helped out in this, time of crisis? Because in terms of the stimulus package as well, around 45 lakh MSMEs who are actually covered under collateral-free loans, under government-backed loans. But what about the other remainder, 6 crore MSMEs who have already been registered? If you have to look at the entire sector as a whole, how do you think they could be helped by the financial sector in these times of crisis?
So I think two things on MSMEs. One, I think the guarantee helps. It's just that if you see banks are at supposed to lend in 9.5% to fall within the guarantee. I think the smaller MSMEs, especially the micro enterprises, frankly, the lending rates at 9.5 don't help much because the ticket size are very small, lending rates are higher. So I think one way to really think is to think differently about the micro enterprises. And I think that's where the mass employment happens. It's the two people, three people, four people in your shops, in your tailoring shops, in your garages, etc. I think that piece needs some coverage. I can't see it right now. But I'm sure we will come up with that solution also at some point. I think the second point, which I think we will probably see more going into June, some of it we haven't been so obvious is, where are the organizations or small businesses which have got a little longer damage, so which means we don't see them coming back to normalcy in 3 months. They probably take 9 to 12 months. So we'll need probably a one-time restructuring. Too early to see that. I don't think so. The organization can see it themselves. We can't see it. And frankly, there's no time to do. Or should I say time? It's not the environment where you would really like to go out unless it's a green zone and then really see where his business is, see what his plan is, see how the new plan makes sense. Because even the demand hasn't come back fully. So I would give that some time. But I do think two things. One is the micro enterprises need a bit of help. I don't think so that package is available today. And secondly is we must look at businesses more closely. It's a bit early given there are so many moving parts of what exactly is a business which comes back in 3 months and what is a business which probably needs a bit longer. And there we need to help with MSMEs. But I would think that, like I said, some dry powder to help both the segments. I anticipate the government probably has that.
Right. And overall, with small finance banks as well, what's the kind of exposure does this space have with regards to real estate?
So I think some of us do affordable housing,
Okay.
affordable like we certainly do affordable housing, and it's directly related to our customer base because obviously a lot of the customers who are borrowing from us would like to build their houses. Um, I also honestly hope and wish that small finance bank can work with various government. Right? I think one takeaway from the COVID is we should find a way to make all slums non-slums as
Okay.
soon as we. I think this is in everybody's interest, not just people in the slums, but everybody staying outside the slums too. Uh, Affordable housing, to my mind, is a space which will always have great demand. I think people will be a bit more conscious about, buying the appropriate size of houses, not going for big loans or big houses if they don't need it. Uh, but I do think that, if you're staying in a congested area, you're staying in a slum, or you're staying in an area which needs no cleanliness, you will migrate up. So I see demand coming back in the housing sector. The moment you
Right.
see a bit of visibility and confidence, I think affordable housing is a great space to be in.
Right.
And
So are
like
you
I said,
right?
sorry, right.
Right. So from real estate on this, do you think if you have to divide real estate between affordable, mid-size, and luxury, the fastest to revive could be the affordable housing space, taken into consideration that now everyone understands the importance of a home because everyone's even working from home. So again, the commercial side of real estate probably could be taking a beating to some extent, but it's the affordable housing space that is going to see revival at the faster end of the curve.
I mean, if you go back even last 1.5, 2 years, or probably longer, we have been seeing the trend. I mean,
Correct.
the high luxury is most impacted, and the low end is where there is demand and there is movement.
Hmm.
I suspect that strength will continue, no doubt about it, right? And clearly, but I think there may be a bigger consumer demand than we have seen in the past because I think focus on health, focus on better living has become, really prevalent in everybody's mind. Doesn't matter who you are. So I think you will see a pickup in I need to improve my house. I need to actually move into a proper house, or I need to make sure that I can probably move to a non-congested area. So I do think there will be a context where I think where you live, how you live, is more relevant than it was pre-crisis.
Right. And do you think investment with regards to real estate as an asset class will also pick up because there is uncertainty across if you talk about stock markets, if you talk about the debt side of the business, if you talk about even in terms of the currency side. Do you think real estate as an asset class is something that could pick up? And how do you see people getting better returns given this uncertainty?
So I think being boring will be back in vogue. Uh, by which I mean is, see, bank deposits are supposed such a boring thing, right? I mean, you can't go to a party and tell your friend, I just took this bank deposit of certain bank and I'm getting 7.5% or 7%. You probably go to a party and say what's talking about or whatever.
Mhm.
You bought a sophisticated wealth management paper. So, but I do think if you look back, Hiral, at the last 3 years, 5 years, you know, a fixed deposit of a bank probably would have been given you a best return. And even if you look at today, there are now banks which offer you 7 to 8%. If you take a 7.5% deposit for 3 years and you add the interest if it accumulates, you could even get you will get a 9% return. It's 8.99%. I think getting a 9% return on a fixed deposit where you can sleep easy, but yeah, you can't watch the stock price of the fixed deposit change, but that doesn't matter.
Correct.
So it'll be boring, but that will be interesting. I similarly think, buying property for second, third, fourth has become a bit of a challenge in people's mind. But buying your own home, upgrading your home will be back.
Mhm.
If you're buying, you of course have to talk to an investment advisor. But I think buying and holding for long term. So I suspect back to boring is the right approach for people. Uh, and they will discover if they look at their portfolios. And I suggest that everybody's got time. You should just sit back, look at what you've done, and see what you won't do again. It'll be very sad if you repeated the same mistake twice. But given that what I've seen around, boring will be back.
Well, so if Ajay, boring is going to be back as well, then obviously we do anticipate that the deposits with regards to financial institutions is something which could go up as well, taking the uncertainty into consideration. But with this, again, the mindset of the people is I rather leave the money parked with bigger banks. And there is that, dilemma, or there is that one question that still runs in people's mind is how safe are deposits with small finance banks? If you have to put this entire, if you have to put this into context, what would I mean? How do you convince your customer then?
I think it's fair. See, listen, small finance banks are new breed amongst banking, and which people don't know much about. So I guess there has to be a question in people's minds saying, what are these small finance banks? Are they safe? So I think that's nothing abnormal about it. The reality is that the small finance banks are scheduled commercial banks. We are as regulated by Reserve Bank like any other private sector. We all have capital adequacy of 15% plus.
Hmm.
Our results are in public domain, so the people can see what the net NP levels, etc., are. We are covered by DICGC, which is a subsidiary of RBI, on deposit guarantee up to 5 lakhs, like any other bank, whether you're a PSU bank or you are a private sector. And finally, all of us have enough investors locally or globally, which are strong, big, and powerful. So I think we offer everything that a normal bank would offer in terms of, reasons why you should stay with a fixed deposit there. There is certainly newness about us. And I think, so people will, my experience has been, people come and say, okay, let me put 5 lakh today. Then they come around and say, oh yeah, the bank is still doing fine. So then the 5 becomes 7, 7 becomes 10, 10 becomes 15. So I guess people will approach small finance banks with that amount of newness, and they should. I also think, ultimately small finance banks have businesses which gives a higher margin on their assets. That allows them to certainly give a bigger return on their deposits.
Mm.
Also, small finance banks have just converted to, banks from the NBFC roles or other institutions just a few years back. So, for example, if you take us, we had a lot of loans from banks, which we have repaid. If I had a loan at 11% or 10.5% from a bank, I'm happy giving 8.5% deposit because obviously my cost of funds have come down even at 8.5 because the original price was 10.5.
Mm.
So banks have been able to give better rates because they have paid back their loans. They have businesses which offer better returns. And fundamentally, these are scheduled commercial banks. But I guess investors or other depositors will approach it with like, this is a new bank on the street, how is it? And the environment has also been not very helpful because, there have been lots of news around banks which have made people uncomfortable. So it's for us to keep convincing our depositors that we are good. And yeah, we have fortunately lots of such depositors.
Right. So where very lastly, Ajay, how do you see the sector as a whole actually evolving post the crisis? Because even if you have to talk about India as a country, we've always seen a lot of reforms that have come through during period of crisis. And now the anticipation is that probably we will evolve stronger from here on. So if you have to talk about the financial sector, how do you see it evolving?
So I think the few changes, First, I feel that digital will be back in a serious way, uh, by which I mean the video KYC options,
Hmm.
maybe a lot more collections on digital, disbursements on digital, people getting digitized, which I think is very friendly because it's not just healthy, but reduce cost. And that will advantage will get passed on either to banks' balance sheets or they'll get passed on to consumers. So I think digital is going to become real. I do think banks will relook at the risk models because not every industry will remain the way it is when we exit. So we'll all have to go back to a risk model and see what amendments we do to a risk model in this moment. I think the third piece in the industry, at least, will be our own approach to health. Both our customers and employees have become very different now. So working from home, no more is like, oh, that guy is lazy. Working from home has become like that guy is good. Now let's make this into a reality because it's great for him and great for the bank. I
Correct.
think that will definitely change. I think overall, if you see, there is enough and more impetus to India to make a lot of positive moves. It needs a bit of patience. And we have to realize that this is a very interesting one where we're not fighting a financial crisis, we're actually fighting a health crisis.
Health crisis. Correct.
And health crisis is about life and about continuity, and that's very important. So we'll have to move with that understanding. I've seen SARS when I was in Singapore a couple of years back.
Hmm.
And for 2-3 months, we really focused on making sure that everybody stayed still healthy,
Hmm.
and then got more focused on how to get the economy going. If I look at what we have done in India, is very similar to that.
Hmm.
That we have really first focused on human life, but there comes a point where you start kind of saying, okay, now I need to take a bit more risk.
Yes,
We are
correct.
entering that phase now, uh, and I think we'll all do well. Banks will do well. Banks just have to banks will only do well if the customers does well, and we'll have to give it a bit of time, I feel.
Absolutely, very well said, Ajay. That I mean, we have to just evolve out of this entire situation, and I think, I mean, how we evolve from here on is going to be crucial. But thank you very much for joining us on the show. It was a pleasure having you. Great insights that we picked up as well, especially with regards to where small finance banks are concerned and the microfinance sector as a whole. We will come back to you as well once things improve to understand as to what what the on-ground scenario actually now looks like a couple of months from here on. uh, Stay home, stay safe, and continue working. That's what we are also thriving at right now. Thank you very much for joining in.
Thank you. Bye bye.